What if I told you that the secret to attracting women isn't about looks, money, or trying to be someone you're not? Most men spend their time chasing approval, hoping the more they try, the more they'll get noticed. But here's the shocking truth. Women crave not a man who fits into the mold, but a man who stands out. This isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about uncovering the version of you that is already irresistible, the very traits that make you a man worth following and loving. True attraction comes from within, from embracing your power. Right now you have a choice. You can keep chasing validation or step into your power and become someone she can't ignore. If you're ready to stop guessing and start attracting, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below, "I am unstoppable." Let's dive deeper. Number 1. The man she can't unsettle. There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than any word. A presence that doesn't beg to be noticed but somehow always is. That's the man who doesn't chase approval, and in a world constantly begging to be seen, he becomes unforgettable. Picture this. She delays her reply. She cancels plans. She tests boundaries, consciously or not. And while most men react with anxiety, explanations, or attempts to win back her attention, he does nothing, not out of pride, but because his value wasn't built on her response in the first place. This man doesn't lose himself to gain her. His day continues with the same calm, the same intent. He reads, he builds, he moves. He doesn't orbit around her mood, that stillness, that grounded nature. She notices, it haunts her in the quiet hours because it's so rare. Most men adjust themselves to fit her world, but he remains unshaken. That's power. From a Stoic lens, this isn't just confidence, it's freedom, the kind Epictetus speaks of. No man is free who is not master of himself. When you don't need validation, you stop being manipulated. No one's delay, withdrawal, or silence can shake you. You've built your center elsewhere. Society feeds us a lie. To be attractive, you must always do something. Text the right thing, show the right status, be constantly responsive. But real magnetism comes from being, not performing. When you stop seeking, you start drawing in. And women, especially those used to being chased, feel this difference instantly. Think about the irony. She might expect a reaction, a question, a check-in, a little ego crack, but when it never comes, something shifts. She wonders why. She rereads the last message. She replays the silence, and now you live in her mind, not because you tried to, but because you didn't. The solution? Stop outsourcing your emotional weather. Build a world she can enter but not dominate. If she walks away, the world doesn't collapse. It stays intact. She's not the sun, you are. And if she wants warmth, she'll find her way back. The man who doesn't bend to please, who can walk alone without shrinking, isn't cold. He's centered. And in a world addicted to noise, that calm becomes irresistible. Number 2, the quiet mirror that draws her in. It's not the loudest voice in the room that wins her trust, it's the one that listens. In a world saturated with self-promotion, boasting, and carefully curated personas, the rarest kind of presence is the man who sees her. Not for her appearance, not for what she offers, but for who she is underneath the noise. She walks into the conversation expecting what she always gets: stories about achievements, muscles flexed between words, clever lines crafted for effect. But this time, she's met with stillness. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't redirect the topic to himself. Instead, he leans in. Not physically, but emotionally, with genuine curiosity. When she says work's been insane lately, most men jump in with how their day was harder, but he simply says, Sounds draining. Was it worth it? 7 words, that's all. But it lands with more weight than 1,000 compliments. In that moment, she feels something unusual, heard. From a Stoic perspective, this isn't just a conversational technique, it's humility in action. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The humble listener doesn't need to insert himself constantly. He's not fragile in silence. He doesn't grasp for attention because he already possesses inner security. Many people think attraction is built on performance. Be funny, interesting, dominant. But in truth, the deepest connections are forged in the quiet space where someone feels safe to be themselves. The man who can hold that space, who resists the urge to perform, becomes unforgettable. She might not even realize it at first. There's no fireworks, no grand gesture, just a lingering feeling. I could tell him things I've never told anyone, and that's not because he's manipulative. He's present. His ego doesn't need to compete. His words are few, but his attention is whole. Let's challenge the common misconception that women want to be impressed. They might say that, and many men take it literally, so they chase flashy cars, tell exaggerated stories, or subtly drop status cues. But the truth? They long for you to be understood, without judgment, pressure, or needing to perform themselves. Here's the insight. Stop talking to be remembered. Start listening to be felt. Your strength isn't in the number of words you use, but in the weight behind them. A quiet, grounded man who listens empathetically has more impact than 1,000 alpha male imitations. Practically speaking, how do you become that mirror? First, observe more than you speak. Reflect her feelings instead of giving unsolicited advice, and when you do speak, keep it simple and sincere. You don't need to say something profound, just something real. She may not thank you out loud. She may not even realize why she feels drawn to you. But days later, when she's alone, she'll remember how calm she felt around you. That's the kind of attraction that isn't loud, but lasts. Because when you stop trying to prove who you are, you give her space to become who she is. And that, in a world of performance, is magnetic. Number 3. The storm behind his silence. There is something magnetic about a man who speaks little, but every word seems carved from stone when he does. He doesn't announce his strength. He doesn't perform masculinity. He simply is. In a time where most men over-explain, over-prove, and overcompensate, his calm is a rebellion, and it draws her in like gravity. He enters a room and the energy shifts, not because he demands it, but because he carries an inner weight. There's no frantic movement, no constant checking of his phone. His posture is quiet power, his eyes hold presence, and when she tries to test his composure, a sharp question, a subtle provocation, he doesn't flinch. He meets it with stillness, not resistance. That's what unsettles her and fascinates her. She starts to lean in, not because he dazzled her with lines or looks, but because his silence holds stories. There's something untold about him, something unsaid. He makes space, and in that space she reveals herself. That's the paradox. The more grounded he is in stillness, the more she is drawn into movement. Stoicism teaches that true strength is not loud, it's unshakable. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." This man doesn't fear discomfort or uncertainty. He lives with it like an old friend. His calm is not naivety, it's earned, and she can sense it even if she can't name it. Let's dismantle a modern illusion that power must be performed, that to be desirable, a man must constantly show dominance. command attention or speak with force. But the deepest masculine presence isn't theatrical, it's rooted. The man who doesn't explain himself endlessly, who can sit in silence without scrambling to fill it, radiates a rare kind of confidence. Imagine this, she asks, "Why don't you ever talk much about yourself?" And he just smiles, shrugs gently and says, "I prefer to show, not tell." That's it. No monologue, no justification, just the kind of line that plants a seed in her mind, one that grows every time she thinks about him. She starts to notice every word he says is intentional, every look holds meaning, and slowly the mystery becomes irresistible. This isn't about playing games or being emotionally unavailable, it's about being grounded. A man like this has faced storms, not just outside but within, and he's come through them, not louder but quieter, not harder but deeper. His calm isn't empty, it's full of stories, scars, lessons. Here's the takeaway. You don't need to be the loudest to be the strongest. You just need to be anchored. When rooted in substance, your silence becomes a presence she can feel, even when you're gone. So next time you think you need to say more, prove more, explain more, pause. Let your stillness speak. Let your gaze carry weight. And watch how she listens, not just with her ears, but with her entire being. Because the storm she's drawn to isn't outside, it's the one you carry inside, mastered in silence. Number 4. The strength to walk away without a sound. A moment defines a man, not when he gets what he wants, but when he walks away from what doesn't serve him. He does it quietly, no bitterness, no drama, just a calm departure leaves her stunned in the silence he leaves behind. She tests the limits, cancels at the last minute, pulls hours late with one. Singh answers. Maybe she expects him to push harder, to plead for her attention. Most men would. They'd send another message, ask if something's wrong, try to fix things. But not him. He sees what's happening and he lets it go. Not because he doesn't care, but because he respects himself more. That's the kind of man who confuses her, because she's used to being the one who chooses when it ends. But now he ends it. Not with anger, but with dignity. He doesn't explain, he doesn't accuse, he simply exits. And in that absence, she begins to feel his value more than she ever did in his presence. From the Stoic point of view, this is the highest form of self-respect. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Walking away isn't weakness, it's strength without spectacle. It says, "I see clearly, I remain calm, and I choose myself." We've been told that real love means persistence, that you must fight for her. But what if fighting means sacrificing your peace? What if chasing becomes a form of self-abandonment? The Stoic man knows when to persist and when to release. He's not controlled by desire or rejection. He stays aligned with his values, always. Here's the lie. Women want a man who will never give up on them, but the truth is, they want a man who knows when to give up on them, when they stop showing up, respecting and engaging. That's when walking away becomes not just attractive, but unforgettable. Picture this, she cancels plans 2 nights in a row, no apology, just indifference. He doesn't protest, he sends a short, respectful message, "Take care, I won't wait around." That's it. He doesn't come back later, he doesn't lurk, he lives. And days, weeks later, she thinks about him, about how she expected anger, neediness, or attempts to win her back, but she got silence instead. Powerful, deafening silence. That silence holds a message. You don't define my worth. And in that message, she realizes something vital. He's not like the others. He's a man who doesn't just know how to stay, he knows how to leave. If you want to be respected, you must show that you respect yourself first, not by what you demand, but by what you walk away from. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, and when you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you set a boundary without words. So the next time she pushes your line, don't explain it, enforce it. Quietly, cleanly, without hate. Because real power isn't in how loud you can be, it's in how easily you can leave, with your dignity intact. Number 5. The quiet power of making her feel seen. He doesn't speak in poems. He doesn't shower her with exaggerated compliments. He doesn't try to impress with wealth or wit, and yet she feels more special around him than she ever has with men who tried so hard. Why? Because with him she feels, not dazzled, not seduced, just deeply seen. When he looks at her, it's not a glance, it's presence. There's no agenda, no rush to the next move, just still attention. He notices the way she pauses before speaking. There was slight hesitation before a smile, the flicker of fatigue in her eyes, and instead of pointing it out, he lets her be. That's what creates safety. That's what makes her lean in. This kind of man doesn't perform for her approval. He doesn't follow pickup scripts or flatter her ego. He simply shows up fully, quietly, and she feels something rare in that quietness, cherished without being controlled. The Stoic perspective calls this living by nature, being fully where you are, without distraction, without pretense. As Epictetus said, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves." His value comes from within, not from the reactions he gets, so he can give attention freely, without expectation. Most men try to make her feel special through noise, grand gestures, expensive dates, clever words, but they miss the truth. Women don't remember what you gave them, they remember how they felt around you, and presence, real presence, lingers in memory long after you're gone. Let's address a modern misunderstanding, that romance is built on action, on saying more, doing more, proving more. But true romantic gravity comes from essence, who you are when you strip away effort. The man who can sit in silence and still make her feel like the only woman in the room, that's the one she can't stop thinking about. Here's an example. While others might say, "You're so beautiful," he simply observes, waits, and when the moment is right says, "There's something about the way you hold back when you laugh. It's like you're trying to stay in control, even in joy." That kind of comment doesn't flatter. It penetrates. It says, "I see you." He doesn't need her to perform. He doesn't need to chase her attention. He creates a space where she doesn't have to be impressive. She can relax, unfold. And in that unfolding, intimacy grows, not forced, but fluid. What's the result? She returns, not because he asked, but because she felt something rare, a kind of emotional gravity, and now other men feel shallow in comparison, loud, overbearing, exhausting. The Stoic knows less is more. He doesn't chase, but attracts, not through flash, but through energy, not through control, but through calm. And in a world where attention is currency, his quiet focus becomes a gift she didn't know she was starving for. So don't aim to impress her, aim to see her, not through compliments, but through awareness, not through noise, but through presence. Because the man who makes her feel like the only one, without saying a word, is the one she never forgets. Number 6. The depth that only pain can forge. There's a kind of man who carries silence not as a shield but as a story. He doesn't hide his past, but he doesn't display it either. There's no bitterness, no victimhood, only quiet strength, and she senses it immediately. In his gaze, in his restraint, in the way he never needs to be the center of the room, yet somehow always is. This man has been broken, but didn't stay broken. He's been betrayed, humiliated, abandoned, but instead of hardening into resentment or collapsing into neediness, he grew deeper. He didn't just move on, he transformed. And in that transformation, he became someone others can feel before he even speaks. She may not know what he's endured. He doesn't tell sob stories. He doesn't need pity. But there's a weight to him, a rootedness that only comes from surviving something real. That depth becomes a magnetic force, because while others posture, he simply is. From a Stoic lens, this man embodies what Epictetus meant when he said, "Difficulties show men what they are. Pain, loss, disappointment. These were not obstacles, but teachers. They stripped away the superficial and left behind something raw, honest, and resilient." And that makes him compelling, not the absence of scars, but the way he wears them with quiet dignity. Contrast this with what most people do after heartbreak. They numb, distract, rush into the next thing, build walls. But he didn't do that. He let the fire burn, and in the ashes he found clarity. That's why he's no longer reactive, no longer desperate to prove himself or avoid discomfort. He's been there, he's faced himself, and now nothing outside can unseat him. This is the truth few dare say aloud. Women aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to depth, and depth is forged in darkness. She may not ask what happened to him, but she'll wonder, because it's rare to meet a man who's been wounded but still chooses love, not with naivety but with wisdom. Imagine this. She asks about his past. He pauses, not to hide, but to choose his words. "I trusted the wrong people," he says. "It hurt, but it taught me more than comfort ever could." That kind of response doesn't dramatize, it reveals. And it leaves her thinking not about what he suffered, but about the strength it took to survive and remain open. So many men avoid their pain, fearing it makes them weak. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Suffering is the forge of character. The man who has faced loss and kept his integrity, who has felt grief and still chooses to care, that man is rare. And women feel that rarity like heat from a distant flame. The insight? Don't run from your wounds. Refine them. Let them shape you, not define you. Speak less about what you've been through and let how you move through life speak for you. Because the man who turns pain into depth doesn't need to chase anyone. They find him, and when they do, they don't want to leave. You began this journey thinking attraction was about playing the right cards, but now you realize it's about becoming the kind of man who attracts, not chases. She didn't want someone to impress her, she wanted someone who was already impressive without even trying. If you're ready to become that man, like this video, subscribe and comment below. I am unshakable. Stay strong, keep evolving. Your future isn't waiting, it's yours to create.